When we talk about consciousness, it's so easy to get lost in this sea of competing theories. But what if they aren't actually competing at all? What if they're all just different parts of a single massive blueprint? So today, we're not just going to list a bunch of ideas. We're going to try to build the architecture of awareness itself.
I mean, it's the biggest question there is, right? It's the you that's listening to me right now, the feeling of the world around you, that inner voice that's thinking about it all. For centuries, this has been a total puzzle. How does the physical stuff in our brains, the meat, as some neuroscientists call it, give rise to our thoughts and feelings?
And here's the big idea we're exploring. The best way to understand consciousness isn't to pick one winning theory. It's to see how they all fit together into a much larger framework. It's this incredible emergent product of evolution. And all those different theories, they're not rivals. Think of them more like different floors and rooms in the same incredible building.
Okay, so let's lay the foundation. The first part of our blueprint involves this constant, bustling competition for your attention. I want you to think of your brain as this massive, chaotic information marketplace.
This brings us to the famous global workspace theory from thinkers like Bernard Baars and Stanislas Dehaene, and they use this brilliant metaphor, a theater of consciousness. So picture this. Countless bits of information are all backstage waiting for their cue, but only one winner gets the spotlight. And once it's on that stage, bam, it gets broadcast to the entire brain. It's suddenly available for memory, for decision-making, and that's the moment you become aware of it.
But of course, not everyone agrees on this single-stage idea. The philosopher Daniel Dennett, for example, he offers a pretty cool twist with his multiple drafts model. He argues there's no central theater at all. Instead, there are these parallel drafts, or interpretations of reality, all competing for what he calls fame in the brain. So it's less like a single spotlight, and more like a whole chorus of voices where only the loudest one gets heard.
Okay, so let's move to the next level of our architecture, and you'll see how this all starts to build. We're going to shift from thinking about the brain as a passive stage to seeing it as an active, relentless prediction machine. It's not just taking reality in, it's constantly trying to guess what's coming next. And to really get this, check out this provocative idea from neuroscientist Anil Seth. He calls our conscious experiences controlled hallucinations. Now that sounds wild, right? But it's actually a powerful way to understand this. Your perception of reality, it isn't a clear window to the outside world. It's your brain's best guess, its internal simulation of what's actually out there.
And this breaks down the process perfectly. It's just a continuous loop. So first, your brain predicts what it expects to see, hear, and feel. Then, it senses what's actually coming in and compares the two. If there's a mismatch, a prediction error, it updates its model. And this fundamental drive to minimize surprise is what Carl Friston calls the free energy principle. It's what keeps us alive and stable in a chaotic world.
So we've got competition and we've got prediction. The next piece of our blueprint is all about hierarchy. See, it's not just about seeing the world. It's about knowing that you're seeing it. It's about the brain kind of looking at its own process of looking.
And this brings us to a really key debate. So, first-order theories say consciousness is just the experience itself, simply feeling cold. But higher-order theories argue that to be truly conscious of the cold, you need another process that is aware of that feeling. Think of it this way. A thermostat can react to the cold, but only you can think to yourself, wow, I'm aware that I'm feeling really cold right now.
And that awareness of awareness, that's the real game changer. That's the mechanism that allows for introspection, self-reflection, and really complex emotions. Joseph Ledoux, for example, he argues that a feeling like fear isn't just a basic survival signal. It's a higher-order representation of that signal. It's the brain telling itself a story about its own state.
All right, for our final structural element, we've got to do something pretty radical. We have to break down the walls of the skull itself. This pillar challenges the very idea that your mind is locked up inside your brain.
That's it. That's the core idea, plain and simple. Theories of embodied and extended cognition argue that consciousness is this dynamic process that involves our entire being and the world we're constantly interacting with.
So, where does the mind extend? Well, Evan Thompson argues it's an active process of the whole body, that mind and life are deeply connected. Andy Clark suggests we form these coupled systems with our environment. Like when you use a notebook or your phone to offload memory, your mind and the tool become one system. And guys like Parrington and Deacon argue that our greatest tools of all, language and technology, fundamentally rewired human consciousness, creating a whole new level of self-awareness.
Okay, so we've laid out all the components. We've got the competition, the prediction, the self-awareness, and this idea of extension. Now let's put it all together and take a look at the final blueprint.
So when you assemble it all,
You see, consciousness isn't some single switch that's just on or off. It's a nested hierarchy, a layered system. It starts with the basic biological need to stay organized. Then it uses predictive processing to navigate the world. It builds this global awareness through competition, and then it achieves our level of introspection through higher-order monitoring and symbolic thought. You see? All the theories fit together.
And this brings us to one last, really fascinating question. If we truly understand the blueprint, this entire architecture of awareness, does that mean that one day we could actually build it from scratch? It's a question that pushes the boundaries of neuroscience, of artificial intelligence, and really what it even means to be human. Definitely something to think about.